me. Man, when I got off that airplane at Logan Airport and I hit the ground here in America, I don't know, it wasn't quite like my grandfather coming from Genoa with only $20 in his pocket, and who knew where he was going to go. He went to New York, of course, but many Italians came to Boston, I may say. Wow, I had some of that feeling that even some of my friends that came in, as immigrants had. I didn't like it over there. Now, you're talking about somebody not like Kamala Harris, who never went to Europe until she was over 50 years old. But she's an expert on foreign policy. I'm serious. She gained it by a process called osmosis. OSMOSIS. That is, you breathe it in from being around people who know about foreign policy. Now, here's the problem. I can't figure out who she was around that knew about foreign policy that she was breathing it in from. It is a little ridiculous selecting as your vice president a person, woman, not woman, black person, white person, pink person, yellow person, striped person, who's never been to Europe at 50. It would mean that any knowledge she had, if any, would have been book knowledge. And I don't think she's a bookie. I mean, a book reader. Sorry, Kamala. I didn't mean, picking up bets. I meant like you don't read. Or if you do, you read backwards books because you talk backwards, which is an interesting phenomenon. I got to check those sentences of yours out. Maybe they're like backwards sentences. So I'm back. I'm going to talk a lot about my trip there because substantively, probably the biggest knowledge I gained is about Iran, because I spent a lot of time with my Iranian friends who know more about Iran than the State Department multiplied by 10, and also are much more loyal to the United States than most of Biden's State Department. And some very, very interesting theories of theirs also on the attempted assassination of our dear president, who is doing well. I'm not doing well. I'm not doing well because I think they're going to try it again. I warned them about it a year ago. Please, I'm not taking any special credit for that. I will not name him myself. They can come forward. I can name for you right off the top of my head right now 6 of his good friends who said something more or less like this. Mr. President, they've tried everything they can to stop you. And as they become almost insanely frustrated that it doesn't work, who the heck doesn't go down when you indict him and it goes up? What option do they have left? What are they going to call you more names? Instead of 4 indictments, they'll have 8. One of them, you got convicted and you went up 3. So they convict you, you go up 3 more points. They didn't put Trump in the case in Arizona that I'm in, and Mark and a bunch of others, because they figured he'd win by acclamation if they put him in that case. So there aren't many options left. So let's not be fools here. Let's not jump on top of a conspiracy theory. God knows I don't want to do that. But let's not also walk away from one, particularly when we're getting bad signals, like from that Secret Service idiot person that was there, the Biden person, the Biden plant that was running it, who didn't know anything about what happened, or said, the investigation is too early in a stage to, much too early to answer, 10 days. My God, I solved most crimes in less than 10 days. In fact, if you don't solve a crime in the first 3, you know how the percentage goes down? I mean, they're gearing up for like a 10-year investigation. You gear up for a 10-year investigation, you get a 30-year one, like the Kennedy one. All of this has all of the earmarks of a Washington fix. I'm not saying the shooting itself. It may. I'm talking about the aftermath, the way it's being handled now with all the garbage and the nonsense and the craziness. And you hear these things and there's no sensible explanation for it. I will report to you that over in Europe, and over in Europe, the left doesn't avoid me quite the same way as they do here, because they don't realize that within 3 minutes I rip them apart, not because of my superior intellect, because of my superior facts. And then they start staying away. Most of them think it wasn't an accident. Now, it could be, I don't know. I've never spent enough time researching this, that Europeans tend to be more conspiracy prone than we are. I don't know that to be a fact, but they definitely are on the conspiracy bandwagon faster than we are. I don't know that it has anything to do with any particular facts they have. I just think it's their reaction to it, and the fact that these things creep out, and then the Secret Service is found to have looks like it lied about things. You know, first there was no notice about this guy. Then there was just brief notice that there was a guy with a gun. Then there was a 57-minute notification of a suspicious man. I mean, that's enough time to read the Encyclopedia Britannica backwards and forwards about him. That's not enough time to locate him, isolate him, and have him under at least eyeball supervision, or just throw them hell out. This isn't a First Amendment gathering in the sense that if a trained police officer has a hunch, he can use his hunch to protect the president. So it looks bad for us there, it looks bad here. Up until the moment that happened after the Biden debate, the Europeans were convinced that Biden was toast, that Trump was going to be the president, some hating it, a lot more liking it than you think, but some hating it. And then with the very, very quick turnaround and attempted assassination, they're looking at their, what they regard as their young cousins, America's being naive again. Oh, right. They didn't try to kill him. The guy with the biggest motive really didn't try to kill him. I'm not sure they're right. I'm just reporting to you what they said to me, left and right, both sides. Having been there during the Olympics, and having at one point had the thought of going to several of them, one of the basketball games, and I was going to go to a boxing match. And, I had invitations to 3 different events involving Americans. I couldn't go. I can't even look at the symbol any longer without feeling like it's like a symbol of a dishonest, corrupt organization. I mean, I don't know that it ever came out of the corruption that was laid on it, a couple of years ago, with all the money that these people are making off it, and all of the shenanigans that go on. But this display down the Seine River should have resulted, personally, canceling. Yeah, we got to make the point that you don't get to mock the Son of God. Just like Muslims would want to make the point, should we start it with Muhammad killing all of the Jews that he killed when he wanted to take over the best olive fields in Mecca? It was one of the first mass graves, at least one of the first paintings or visualizations of mass grave. So suppose somebody wanted to go down the Tiber, Roman Olympics, and then we could have a big kind of a big fat guy, or maybe a big gay guy as Muhammad. How do you think the Islamics would feel if they used a gay guy playing Muhammad and killing people. It's in the Quran. You're not making that up. The Olympics would have been, Olympics would have canceled. Right. Canceled. I don't know, Jesus Christ isn't worth as much respect as a mass murderer, as a guy who ended his life exhorting his people to kill Christians and Jews, and many of them seem to have picked up on it. Jesus, the man who told us to turn the other cheek, to love those who hate us in order to bring love, isn't entitled to as much respect. And there isn't as much shock that he's mocked as there would be if a murderer who was also a shakedown artist is misportrayed or possibly correctly portrayed as a shakedown artist, which was part of his life. But in any event, they went ahead with it. And now, when are we going to stop this? A male boxer beat up a female boxer? Are you, what the hell is that all about? I mean, and they're there cheering? Who are these people in France cheering? I mean, I did see a lot of weird people in France. And I got to tell you, they are among the most unhappy people I ever saw, the French people. Every time you ask them for something, they have an attitude. Oh, could you please tell me if we can get a sandwich or something to eat around the corner? I don't know. Well, how long have you worked here? 45 years. What time does the Olympics start? I don't know. Check yourself. People had a backup of about 20 for wheelchairs, and they were being abused. Well, they're trying to be talked out of it. One poor lady didn't understand anything was going on. She almost started crying. I mean, I don't know. They're angry about something. Maybe the fact that they weren't allowed to have their work week go down to 28 got them really pissed off. But look at this. I mean, I want you to see this. Ted, could you put this on? Should we take a little break and then we'll come back? And this is hardly the most important story of all. Or is it? I don't know. Because I see what's going on at the Olympics in a much bigger context than most do. I see it as the crashing down of West. They've won the battle, and Western civilization has lost when these things can happen. Okay. We'll take a short break. And if I put my name on something, I truly believe in it. Today, I'm thrilled to introduce you to something I'm incredibly proud of. My own brand of organic specialty coffee, Rudy Coffee. Believe me when I say it's the best coffee you'll ever try. It's smooth, rich, chocolatey, and gentle on your stomach. It's so good, I even recommend drinking it black. It comes in 3 varieties, including what I promise is the best decaf you'll ever have. You can order now by scanning the QR code on your screen or by visiting rudy.coffee. By supporting Rudy Coffee, you're not just treating yourself to exceptional coffee, you're also supporting our cause, the cause of truth, justice, and American democracy. You'll also be supporting the Call to Action nonprofit, which is devoted to helping veterans and first responders, so you can make a difference and taste the difference by ordering today at rudy.coffee. Okay, good. You got a box to throw? Well, this is Rudy Giuliani back, and I should tell you because, I don't know why. I always have done this, even before I was, well known and stuff. I always assume everybody knows everything about me, and I don't have to explain it to them. I am a big boxing fan, have been, have not had much boxing to root for in a long time. And I do look forward to the Olympic boxing because it's interesting. It's it's boxing. I'm not going to say the way it should be, but it's boxing, where you see the strategy of it and you see you see the thinking that goes into it, and you see that it's a very, very mind-oriented sport. It's I'll tell you, one of the first things I was trained, right? How do you hit somebody? Well, every time they hit you, they're open. You can't, unless you can move like a Muhammad Ali, so you're gone in 2 seconds. Even he could get hit eventually by Frazier and others who knocked him down. But the minute that jab comes out, right? I want you to notice how this whole part of my body here is open, right? See what I did? So boxers will be like this very often, right? Now, this does a pretty good job of protecting my face right here. I can go here, 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 here. Does a pretty good job of protecting my stomach, which is where I want to actually take less punishment, believe it or not. But unless I want to stand like this, and there are some boxers who do, and they're boring it. Unless I want to stand like this for 3 rounds, right? I got to eventually throw a punch. Now, watch when I throw a punch, what happens. That's a jab, right? Now, what's open? This whole part of my face is open right up here. Now, maybe I can be fast enough to go up and blunt it. Maybe, maybe not. Even more difficult. The whole, you can't see it all, but this whole bottom part of my body is open. The ribs, even more than the stomach. That's why you get a lot of broken ribs in boxing. So every time I jab, and just think of how often I jab, right? I can get pounded in here. It was a great, by the way, it was a great offensive tactic of Rocky Marciano. Most boxers, particularly not extraordinarily bright ones, are always face hunting. And there's an art to that. A lot of fighters will panic when their face gets cut. So there are a lot of guys will be eye hunters. They'll go for that. But you really want to wear a guy down. You get a couple of shots in here, and then in what's called the solar plexus, which is the knockout area, you just put the guy out. Now, in a 3-round Olympic match, that would work more in a 6-round or 10-round match. By the 4th round, the guy's got nothing left. Here's what I'm complaining about. I never thought in my whole life I would ever see a sanctioned man beating up a woman as part of the most venerated activity in sports, the pinnacle of Western civilization. I was taught by my father that if I touched a woman, I was not a man. I want to go fight, go find a man to fight with. You never touch a woman. If she hits you, even if it's not your fault or whatever, you just go like this and get away. Don't let your temper get involved. Don't let, just cover up, just cover up. He said, I'll defend you on anything. I'll help you with anything. If you really got in trouble for hitting a woman, I probably would have to help you, but I don't think you'd be my son anymore. I mean, this was really heavy stuff for a kid. So it led to something really good for the city. We started the first really domestic violence program trying to stop men from hitting women. Behind closed doors was the report done by a group, happened to be done right before I ran for mayor. And I embraced it very, very wholeheartedly and implemented it. And then found a great, great partner in Joe Torre, the former manager of the Yankees, who had come from an abused family. And he opened safe at home facilities for women who could go there and be helped. Because part of my father, the deal my father made with me in teaching me how to box when I was 4 and 5, and was that I would never be a bully, ever. And being a bully is a terrible thing. It shows what a sissy you are, he would tell me. But then being a bully, maybe you could get confession for that. Hitting a woman, you might as well go off into the camp of the sick, perverted. So here we have Angela Carini, and getting the heck kicked out of her by a guy, Imam. I think his name is Imam Khalif. So Imam was born with a penis and still has one, which means he should be fighting with guys. The backlash following the brief Olympic bout between Algerian boxer Imam Khalif, who has previously been disqualified from women's events for failing testosterone tests, and Italy's Angela Carini was swift. Men don't belong with Riley Gaines. Men don't belong in women's sports. You see, if you want, you can see a picture of Angela right there. How do I do this best, Ted? Just put it on here like that? Oh, okay. So then I have to put it like this. There's Angela crying on the ground. You can see she's a big girl. You think she's a big girl. I mean, I think she can handle herself really, really well. She called that moment heartbreaking. Well, what else would it be but heartbreaking, huh? Woman has trained all her life to be a boxer, and she gets into the ring with a make believe woman. I mean, this follows years and years of all kinds of Olympic skullduggery and stealing money and ruining sports. How do we tolerate this? How do we tolerate this? I don't know. I don't know. And this is the woman. This is the woman she competed with. You see the woman there? He got his hands on her back. Now, I don't know for sure because they are not telling us whether that woman has a penis. I think we're entitled to that information because I don't know why we have to buy into their definition that if you say you're a woman, you are a woman, even though you have male genitalia. Because I consider that, let's start off with ignorant. Let's go on to perverted. And it can lead to the most horrible of results. And if you continue to do this in boxing, you'll get a woman killed. I mean, why don't we just allow women to compete with women, men to compete with men? And I don't know if we really want to get into this and you really think this should be honored to that extent. I don't. But if you do, then have your trans, whoever wants to watch it, can watch a bunch of guys who became girls and a bunch of girls who became guys compete. And let's see how they do against each other. Let's see how this bully does against some other guy who says he's female, even though he still has male genitalia, or says he's female and he's taken off his male. We don't know. Usually they tell you. I haven't found out, and maybe Ted can let us know the simple. Not that generally one would inquire as to whether a man has a penis or not, but when he ends up in the wrong bathroom, I sure want to know it. I also think somebody has to take a 360-degree view of this and say, what have we done to ourselves? This is the pinnacle of Western civilization, the Olympics, from the point of view of sports. It's supposed to have the most high-minded principles, the most high-minded competition, the least competitive in the sense of taking competitive advantage. This is a worse place this could be happening. And it really does show that we've caved in. We are no longer a civilized society. A civilized society does not cheer for men beating up women. That's not Western civilization. That isn't the civilization, that came out of Mesopotamia and went through the Bible and through our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ and Reformation. And we gave it away. And does our president say anything about this? No. Where's the defender of women? Kamala Harris, I think, as far as I know, is on the side of men can compete in women's sports as long as they say they're women. I don't think she really believes that. I really don't. I mean, I don't have a very high regard for Kamala Harris's intellect. And if you do, I feel sorry for you. But I do think that's just stupid. She's saying that because she has to. Well, let's take a brief break. And I'm going to tell you a little bit of my trip in France. And now that I've been on long enough, have we had anybody say, what's Giuliani doing in an orange?
We've had a few comments on that.
All right.
We're having the biggest sale ever on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save 60% on our Goose Down comforters, the best comforters ever. They go perfectly with our MyPillow bed sheets and duvet covers. Save 25% on our brand new kitchen towels. They're made with the same technology as our famous My Towels. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. Our seasonal flannel sheets are finally in. You save up to 50% and they sell out fast every year, so order now. They're truly the best flannel sheets you'll ever sleep on. Or save up to 80% on all our clearance items. And this is where it gets even better. For a limited time, your entire order ships absolutely free. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use that promo code to get deep discounts on all MyPillow products. And for a limited time, your order ships absolutely free.
Welcome back. Well, I promised you my yellow story. This is in honor of Steve Bannon. Sorry. I have to remind people, first of all, I want to remind people every day that there are hostages still in Israel. With all the talk of the hostages returned from Russia, was it a good deal? Was it a bad deal? First of all, thank God they're released. This is a very this hostage release thing is very, very complex because human life is so important to us. That's also a mark of Western civilization. It does not exist at that level in the civilizations we're dealing with. Does not exist in the Muslim. Human life does not have the value in their tradition as it has in ours. Don't subscribe to things that are untrue because somebody tells you, it'll make somebody feel better. We got to face up. We got to face up to these things. But we did get some very, very, some very, very great Americans back who have been through torture. And we gave up some terrible, terrible, terrible criminals who will come back and hurt us, as has happened in Israel a number of times and has had to us a number of times. This is not a time right now to talk about a better way to do it, but there is a better way to do it. And thank God that Yvonne and Paul are back. We prayed for them, as you know, we talked about them. But let's pray that the lopsided deal that was done here does not lead Putin to start using this more broadly in his effort to sort of retool where he is, because he's not in great shape right now, and he needs leverage, and he may have found himself some leverage. Uh, I, I, I can't help but think that a lot of this has to do with Biden's completely ignoring our hostages in Gaza. I mean, they've been there since the day it happened. And look at him walking around, wandering around. Looks like he doesn't even know where he is. How do they let him stay president? The Democratic Party almost seems like it doesn't like us. It wants us to have a demented president. It wants us to have a vice president who was selected solely because she's black and a woman, who never even went to Europe before she ran for vice president, who paid for the release of the people who were burning buildings in 2020, and who has a record as a DA that is probably among the worst of any DA in history, pretty much in the way it contradicts itself. First, you have examples of her letting major criminals go free and creating terrible chaos in a city she helped to ruin, San Francisco. And then on the other hand, you have her trying to make up for that by putting these small marijuana cases in jail for as much time as she can get, so she could ratchet up her pathetic statistics. And I mean, are they really doing a good job of glamour? I mean, Ted, I know when we talked on the phone and I watched it from afar across the other side of the ocean, you were telling me what a good job they're doing of sprucing her up. Are they really? Is that a good? I mean, what I see doesn't seem like a terribly good job to me. But you tell me your side, because you may have a better. You're here. You've been here before
This past week.
So what do you see?
I'm seeing Obama 08 on steroids. I'm seeing a media that is totally pumping up Kamala Harris, maybe even more than Obama. And with Obama, I was in high school, so it's a little bit hard to.
No, but he has to pump up Obama more than Chris Matthews saying, "I have a tingle."
And there's been some of that. You know what? I got to remember the case. Somebody used, and it made me think of that moment. I think someone used the word thrill. That's what Chris Matthews said, right? He had a thrill up his leg. But I did hear that this week. I'm gonna find that clip for Monday.
What was that thrill?
I think Chris he either said was a thrill or a tingle. One of the two similar feelings in the leg, right?
Do a little research and find out if he said that before. Biden explains that he likes to have little children in the pool play with the hair on his legs, and he gets real excitement out of that. And I've actually wanted a diagnosis of that, but nobody's willing to do it. There's got to be something wrong with a guy who likes to have little children play with his hair in the pool.
Right.
Particularly, you take a look at the pictures in his son's computer, which are well over 1,000. I'm not talking about adult male or even homosexual, heterosexual pornography. I'm talking about children dressed up in highly sexualized outfits, children like 14, 15, 16, and a couple straight out child porn stuff that the FBI let them float on. I mean, what's going on with the Bidens and the FBI? And then they, the press came to me and said, "Do you trust the FBI investigating the attempted assassination of Donald Trump?" Well, of course I don't. Of course I don't. I don't think I'd have taken down the mafia like no one else ever did if I was stupid and subscribed to stupid, silly, politically correct nonsense. I mean, come on. So are we seeing any, I should have done it on the plane, but I actually watched Waterloo again on the plane.
Well, Mayor, we just went to you went to CNN.com in the car on our way over as we prepared, right? And let's go over the top headlines on CNN.com.
Oh my God!
Right.
Like,
the point is that here, it's changed now. It's changed now, but every headline,
the headline was like for Kamala. Kamala, there was one about her being glamorous. I don't. Okay, she's glamorous.
Yeah.
Wow. I kind of like that because that might get Michelle Obama jealous again, like she was several years ago when Barry said that Kamala was hot, and she got all PO'd about it.
Here's the new top headline at CNN.com. You ready for this?
Yeah.
Some Dems wonder if the U.S. is ready for a Jewish vice president. Can you imagine that? That 10 years ago? Can you imagine that headline?
The only people who aren't ready for it are the squad. They were Democrats.
We were the racist anti-Semitic.
I haven't seen any indication of anti-Semitism of any kind in America except with the Democrats. I mean, so they can answer the question for themselves. And now it depends on who the Jewish person is. It's like, we don't need a Jewish person as vice president, just to have a Jewish person as vice president. That's like getting, Kamala Harris. I mean, Shapiro's got loads of problems, including his unresolved massive involvement in the fraud that was called the Pennsylvania election in 2020. He was the AG who changed all the rules to deprive Trump of an 800,000 vote victory. Now, I got to say, the guy is pretty conniving. I mean, when on election night of 2020, Trump was leading by 800,000 votes, both Newt Gingrich and I concluded it was too much to steal. This did not stop Shapiro, however. So I have a different view of this guy than others do. And, but in any event, I think from what I've seen, I think we have a somewhat overrated guy here in terms of a candidate. Now, I don't know how the Jewish thing works because he's not being picked as a Jewish candidate, if he is, because he's Jewish. It isn't the usual DEI thing, like she was picked because she was a Black woman. He's being picked in order to try to shore up the damage done by the squad, even by Harris herself and Biden in their major support of the terrorist group Hamas and of Palestine. Remember, they almost come to the conclusion, well, they want a Palestinian state, right? Every time, just at about the moment that the barbaric Palestinian and Hamas people were attacking Israel again a week ago, she was chiding Prime Minister Netanyahu for all the terrible things that he does to the civilians, to the Palestinian Hamas civilians. She, meaning Harris. In the context of that, she never mentioned why Israel might be doing that. It was as if they just like to do that to children. She did say that Israel had every right to defend herself, but then went into a diatribe about how Israel is killing children and not doing enough to prevent the killing of children, without explaining that they're responding to their children having been killed. That's left out of everything. While she was saying that, the timing for her couldn't have been worse, because that was at about the time they were organizing in Israel. Hamas and the Palestinians were organizing an attack. Not Hamas, I'm sorry, Hezbollah. You get them confused because they're all operating together. Maybe it'd be easy to say Iran was organizing an attack on northern Israel around the town of Haifa, where you have a large Druze community. And in the process of that attack, they killed 12 children at least, many others, hundreds dead, not hundreds dead, hundreds wounded, major areas destroyed, both of Druze property and of Jewish property. And they were children. And they were not being used by the Druze to protect themselves, or to create a public relations, nightmare. Druze are extraordinarily peaceful people. You might not know who they are, but worth getting to know who they are, because there aren't many of them. And if they keep doing this, there won't be any left, which might be their aim. Because Iran, and this gives you an idea of how this is all being run by Iran, because really the Islamic Republic is the one that would have the most problems with the Druze. The Druze are a breakaway Shiite faction. Overly simplistic explanation, one step separated from the Sufis. The Sufis are a much larger group, which tends to go back and forth with regard to their support of the supreme leader. The Druze have no real regard for the supreme leader, and they see him for what he really is, the supreme gangster, the John Gotti of his day, pretending to be religious and taking advantage of the truly violent parts of the Quran to justify himself. So the hit on the Druze children is also a very, very difficult one to analyze. Was it a mistake? Were they attempting to hit Israeli Jewish students, and they ended up hitting Israeli Druze students? Or were they trying to wipe out some Druze, which would be very much on their agenda? Maybe it didn't matter. They sure as heck wanted to hit children. And when Harris responded to this, Harris never talked about any of this. She just talked about the Jewish response better be very mild. I don't know, some people are going after Kamala for not having children. I think if you don't have children, you can understand completely what it's like. I know there are people, a lot of people are going to argue with me about this. They're going to say, unless you've had children, you can't. I don't believe this unless people have enormous amounts of empathy who are good people. It surely doesn't include these people. But even though you haven't had the experience, if you are really a decent, moral person, you can experience it. There's a supernatural example of that in Catholic theology and Catholic history, and that is the stigmatas, the people who empathize so much with Jesus, and Jesus having been whipped for 45 minutes to an hour before he was crucified, as depicted in the great movie the Passion, or people who have actually had holes in their hands because of their great empathy for the pain Jesus underwent when he was crucified and nailed to the cross. or in the wrist. People can empathize, but I mean, I'm not going to argue with the fact, because I've had, I mean, as a parent, particularly when the children were young, I'd have terrible nightmares of things happening. I used to think of all the things I could control, and then, oh my God, the things I couldn't control. So when you think of what they did to these children, the Druze who have nothing to do with this, and no mention of that by Kamala one-sided Harris. I mean, she and the King of Jordan remind me of each other. The King of Jordan excludes all Palestinians from Jordan because he thinks they're murderers, and his wife is a Palestinian. She will not empathize with the Jewish people, truly, about what happened to them, and she has a Jewish husband. And the best you could say for her is she creates a moral equivalent between the Jewish state and the Palestinian barbarians. And this, by the way, has been at the core of our failure in Middle East foreign policy. Oh my goodness, for 3 generations now. Ted, did you have a question? You were getting all excited there.
I am, Mayor, and I want to have some footage to go along with.
All I see on the left there is a picture of Khalid Sheikh Mohammed.
Yeah, I want to
who's now going to get the.
We have breaking news. Biden
going to give him.
Well, unfortunately, I'm unable to. Let's see if we can just put a picture of him on there and pause it. Mayor, this is good. This is good news. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin has revoked the plea deal granted to these 3 men. Secretary, so
thank you.
Trying to balance a lot here.
Thank you for remembering who you are. Thank you for remembering where you come from. The United States military, the greatest on earth, and I'm almost going to cry when you say that, because you have no idea, unless you were part of this, unless you lived through it. And I'm not just talking about me. I'm talking about the families upon families upon families upon families who have had to live for 23 years without one of the most important people in their family, taken from them by Khalid Sheikh Mohammed and others for a completely horrible reasons. And then having game the system the way they did so that they're still alive. I mean, once they gave out all the information they were going to give out, it was time to get rid of them. And let's get real about the death penalty here. Anybody who wants to debate the death penalty with me, I'm here for you, pal. You come and try to take me on the death penalty. First of all, I'm against it. Did you know that? As a moral matter, I understand the commandment, thou shalt not kill. But I see, as in all rigid rules, and that should be a rigid rule, I see always certain exceptions. Of course, if a man is running at me with a knife, and I take my hand and I put it on his throat and I choke him before he kills me, have I committed murder? Well, I guess yes, but to commit a sin, like to commit a felony, you have to have the mental state of doing something wrong. When you're defending your life, you're doing something right, because you have the obligation to keep your life, to protect your life. So that's self-defense. Now, if I know that a country is going to drop a bomb on Las Vegas tomorrow, and I know roughly where that plane is located and it's getting ready to go off, and I, as a president or whatever, use my authority to destroy that plane, and I kill the people on that plane, I haven't committed the crime or the sin of murder, because it requires a mental element. It requires doing wrong. I want to go back to Latin, to the derivation. Murder as a crime comes right out of the Ten Commandments and murder and Catholic moral theology, murder as a sin. If you commit murder accidentally, my goodness, you drop something and you don't realize that it's going to go down a long, long way that it hits someone. Maybe you're negligent, but you haven't committed murder. So here's what we do in the law. You know, I really want to be a law teacher, but I can't be anymore because they took away my law license. Because they know I love being a lawyer. And I like to show off my Latin. And I'm going to teach you two terms that have actually become very important to understand in this era of the Bidens taking away our rights. This first word at the top means actus reus. The second word at the bottom means mens rea. Actus reus is the act. So if I shoot a gun and someone is murdered as a result of shooting gun, I have completed the actus reus element of the crime of homicide. Now, however, I'm guilty of nothing yet until you determine my mens rea, the mental thing. Mens, mental, rea generally means thing. The mental thing. When I was shooting the gun, did I see a bunch of birds go by? And honestly, and quite legitimately, I was out bird hunting, and I was shooting at the birds. And all of a sudden, after I got the shot off, and before I could see it, a man got in the way and got killed. Well, my mens rea was to shoot birds. They don't square together. It doesn't become a crime. However, suppose I'm out there shooting birds and I see the guy I suspect of having an affair with my wife. And I say, I'm taking that son of a out. And I shoot directly to get Mr. Cheater. Then my mens rea and my actus reus come together in the crime of murder. First, second, third degree. Same thing with the sin. Sins are committed by your mental state. Again, an accidental shooting is not a sin. It may not even be negligent. A deliberate shooting is a sin, and just how deliberate makes it that much more of a sin. So sin and crime, very similar analysis. And why is that? Because much of the law in Anglo-American history emerges from the church. The church had the first set of laws. People were tried in clerical courts for 1,000 years or so before the other courts emerged. And when you want to analyze and bring us back to our core, so that we're not just taking large portions of people's lives away for political reasons and not because you've got to understand these things. You've got to understand why these laws exist. And they have no political undertone at all. And we've got to get back. We've got to get back to being extremely scrupulous about this, because we're torturing innocent people. And we're allowing bad people to really get away with murder, aren't we? Again, I said I have this on for Steve Bannon because of all the people that have been made martyrs by this Biden use of crime in a way, criminal justice and prosecution in a way that's unheard of in a decent country, or unheard of by decent men and women. Steve Bannon stands out as the most obvious one, in the sense that all he did was raise an issue as to whether or not there was a privilege, an executive privilege with regard to the communications with the House. The communications were of so little value, I think they've destroyed most of them. This was all an excuse to get him in jail. This was all an excuse to put as many of the Trump people under indictment and in jail as you possibly could. So many people, and it's so obvious that this was not a legitimate law enforcement exercise, because you never would bring 4 indictments against any human being in 1 year and fully expect to be taken seriously, that they could be tried fairly. You wouldn't end up just piling on and piling on and piling on. I mean, I'm indicted for the same thing in Arizona as I am in Georgia. And the one in Georgia, the original indictment wasn't even signed by the grand jury. And it should have been thrown out. Bye indictment. But it wasn't. Completely leaked to the press erroneously. And when you look at what we're charged with, a certain group of us, we're charged with creating legal options for a client that we're supposed to be creative about. That's our obligation to do that. No question we're being persecuted because we were lawyers for Donald Trump. And they have used every method they could to stop him from being president, going so far as to cover up the hard drive, pay for phony stories created by Ukrainians about Russian collusion, threats to Supreme Court justices by United States senators, threats to the president, including Biden saying, put a target on his back. Now, I don't know how seriously to take that. I would probably go along with the fact that he didn't mean it in that way. But here's what I need to ask you to consider if we're ever going to straighten out the 2-tiered system of justice in this country. If we reverse those facts, and we have about 3 weeks ago, Donald Trump saying, in any context at all, put a target on his back. And 4 days later, some madman tried to kill Biden. Wouldn't every Democrat weasel, of which there are a few that aren't, wouldn't they be blaming Trump for the murder or shooting? God forbid, murder. Of course they would. Would the New York Times have put it right on the front page, as they've done with other conservatives with no connection, but never with Democrats like Schumer, who says go get Kavanaugh, and then there is a plot to murder Kavanaugh, never connecting the two. This is why we're not America anymore. This is what this election has to fix. Not just about Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. It's about whether we're going to get a president who pulls it all back together again It's going to begin with getting rid of the people who have warped themselves. And it comes from the thing that comes from the human emotion that can do the most warping. And what is that? What human emotion can warp the personality and take what might have been a relatively, I'm not going to say good person, but a relatively neutral person into a monster? What's that emotion? You want to think about that as I take a short break. Delivers on its promise to do good and never forget the sacrifices America's greatest heroes have made for us. Heroes who risked their lives to keep our communities and our country safe. Heroes like United States Marine Corps Captain and pilot John Jeremy Sachs. Captain Sachs sustained fatal injuries when his military aircraft crashed during training, killing him and 5 other service members. He's remembered by loved ones as courageous, brilliant, and devoted to his career, family, and friends. John is survived by his wife, Amber, who gave birth to their second daughter 3 months after his death. Tunnel to Towers paid the mortgage on the family home for Amber and their 2 daughters. The foundation has helped over 1,000 military and first responder families navigate the worst of times by removing the burden of a mortgage payment. Our nation's heroes and their families need your help now more than ever. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at T2T.org. T2T.org. That's T, the number 2T.org. T2T.org. Please donate now. Talk about. You haven't seen me in a while. What should I talk about?
And we're back, Mayor. Some recent.
Are you really angry at me for my my orange thing? When I first got these, he said you can't wear these because you look like a prisoner. That was before they tried to make me a prisoner.
Well, it's orange and they can't see the full outfit. It's all orange. It's all orange, Mayor. It's very rare.
I have.
It's a rare combo.
I have orange bottoms on too.
Yeah. So it's very unique, right?
It could be like a basketball uniform. Never saw my hook shot, babes. Ooh.
Oh, I know you're a basketball player growing up in where you grew up, right? Like basketball and baseball.
I was not as good a basketball player as baseball player, but I was, believe it or not, for a guy who was a catcher, therefore not that fast. I wasn't a bad basketball player. I suffered from being probably should have been 6'2", you know.
Oh, for basketball?
6'3", yeah. Because I really had sort of honestly, I sort of had like a power forwards game. If you so did my son Andrew, and both of us. I mean, Andrew's a better straight-on shooter than I am, and I'm a better tricky shooter than he is. I mean, I can go to the basket. I used to. I can now, but I'm able to go to the basket.
Yeah, I mean, look, basketball's a physical sport. People don't realize that. Maybe people may not realize that, if you're just watching it.
Man, you play really good. You play basketball in New York or even in Long Island, and I don't care who you play with or what group of kids. The religious school of St. Mary, and you come away with a lot of aching. The next morning you wake up, no matter what kind of condition you're in, the sides hurt, boy, if you played a good game.
And basketball, I mean, New York, of course, the capital of basketball.
Because we're small and we need it. We need, where are we going to get the big football fields, right?
Football was never big. I mean, I guess the pro game is pretty big. I mean, the Jets and Giants have loyal fan bases, and the NFL headquarters are Park Avenue.
Way back, we had Fordham, and we had Columbia was actually good.
Fordham,
West Point is
the Wall of Granite or something.
Yeah, West Point.
Is that Lombardi?
Yes, Rutgers.
Fordham, Rutgers, City College.
City College was more basketball. City College was one of the great basketball schools.
New York, a lot of great basketball schools. Hofstra, St. John's, New York.
St. John's is New York, Queens, New York.
Yeah, thinking back, and that's when college basketball was kind of king.
My school, Manhattan, was in the NCAA the year I graduated. Fordham has been in the NCAA about as much, if not more often than Manhattan. Never won, but they've been in there a couple of times, moving up.
Stony Brook.
Every once in a while, you'll get, and around the Philadelphia area, you have a lot of good Catholic schools like Villanova.
Villanova wins the championship once in a while.
In basketball, Holy Cross, Bob Cousy.
Yep, Holy Cross.
Holy Cross.
Another one in Philly. They have a football.
Another Catholic school, Villanova.
Oh, Temple.
Temple, of course, yeah.
Yeah, that's in Philly, right?
Yeah. Philly, like New York, has a, they used to have, and I don't know if they still have it, they used to have like a holiday festival in New York. We had so many good teams. And then they would invite in teams like, like Kentucky and LSU and Texas, and teams from all over the country would come in and play in the Garden holiday festival. And then, there'd always be a couple of, it's funny because I guess they couldn't sustain the money, but it was sort of cyclical. St. John's went through a great period. Fordham and Manhattan went through never a great period, but good periods where they got into the NCAA and won a round or two. These schools, CUNY, of course, used to be great. It isn't now any longer. So there have been St. Peter's in Jesuit school in New Jersey has been St. Bonaventure.
Heard of that? Back
up in Buffalo. Yeah. Yep.
There's just a lot of schools. Is there a New York City league for colleges?
No, not for colleges.
Not anymore? I bet you there.
No, there's the Metropolitan Conference.
Okay.
Which includes New York, which includes the schools I was just
mentioning. Yeah.
I was just talking about. Yeah.
Wow. So, Mayor, we're hearing that Kamala Harris is going to interview 6 people this weekend. I think we're both in agreement that that Shapiro seems to be the front runner, or at least that's what I believe. Maybe you don't believe that. Do you think Josh Shapiro's in the front runner for her, or hard to say?
Can I play teacher?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I play teacher.
So I'm gonna. You want me to name this?
You know what would be really funny if I did that and my teeth came out?
Yeah.
My dentist would not like it very much. So let's start off with, I'm going to do it in no particular order. Kelly, right?
Yep.
Kelly, the astronaut, right?
Yep.
Shapiro, the Jew. I'm giving you their qualifications. Why he's picking them, right?
Yeah, and he was able to get a few 100,000 crossover votes. Remember, being Jewish in the Democrat Party may not be, some of the Democrat Party won't like that.
Well, it's sort of as counter the Michigan theory, right? Mm-hmm. The Dearborn theory. That's counter the Dearborn theory.
Yes.
Kelly seems like the most vanilla pick, meaning he doesn't harm anything. But Arizona, I don't know that he's going to flip Arizona. I think there's too much illegal immigration in Arizona for it to go anywhere else.
Put along with Jewish crossover vote, because from there,
who's going to cross
from there? Well, Shapiro,
Josh Shapiro, whose only thing he's done is cheat on votes.
Well, if you look at the 2022 election,
he beat the doctor.
He beat Doug Mastriano.
Oh, he beat Mastriano.
Yeah, and look, it was quite a difference. Look, that's not, 41 to 56%.
Well, Doug was a first-time candidate, and they did a hell of a job on him.
Yeah, I'm
really lied about
100%. And a lot of Republicans in the state, by the way, some of the Republicans in the state created Josh Shapiro and the man he is today, right? By not supporting Mastriano as much.
So who else? Come on, who else? We don't have much more time, right? We got to get our picks in here.
Pritzker
Who?
Illinois, Pritzker, big guy.
Oh, Fatso.
JB Pritzker, he's on the list. He's got money. I mean, or his family has money, right? But he's on the list. I think he gets to be on there. You know, that's the Chicago political. Yeah. That's the Chicago political machine getting there. Yeah, that's funny though. That's good.
For pretzel.
But he's only on there because of the Obama political machine, I think, right?
You
Somehow that's always.
So you think his qualification is
money? I don't know what the hell else could the guys call him. What? I mean, no offense to JB, but what has JB Pritzker done? Like, I mean,
does sound kind of. Yeah, he does kind. I have to tell you,
he sounds like one of those old bosses.
JD, don't get angry at me. You sound kind of dope.
Yeah, he does. Tim Walz, they love Tim Walz.
Tim Walz is the guy who gave away Minnesota during
one of the guys. Yeah,
yeah.
But they like him because he's considered really strong on the issues like labor. He helped the Amazon workers of Minnesota. He's given credit for helping the Amazon workers in Minnesota on some legislation, and which, you know, that's a built-in constituency nationwide, and then also Uber and Lyft drivers. So he's kind of considered
that only about 9 or 10% of America is represented by a private union. This can't be like a big, large, overwhelming
WALZ.
WALZ. Oh.
And I would say for him,
at least I'm learning how to spell these no name.
They think he's good on TV, by the way. He comes off as
he gave up
Minneapolis,
right, to Black Lives Matter, right?
Okay, so
did they also give up? They abandoned a precinct, right? Abandoned precinct.
And we got Andy Beshear.
So he is. He would be the appeaser candidate. Andy Beshear.
He is Kentucky, so he's a Democrat of a very red state. I think that would be a disaster. I don't think that would be a smart choice on their part, but he's on the list.
Is the Kentucky Derby. Okay.
But look, Democrat governor of a deep red state. That's why he's on there, right? If you can win in Kentucky as a Democrat. There's one more name.
Is the fact that Kamala is a female mean we don't have to put a female on here?
Yeah, it's appearing that way because the last one they have on this list is, get ready for it, our friend. We spent a lot of time with him in East Palestine, Ohio. Pete Buttigieg. This used to be Mayor Pete. Now we have to say Secretary Pete. Hopefully, we don't ever have to say Vice Presidential Pete. But Pete Buttigieg, and of course his qualification. Look, well, we won't. PDB. And I guess with him, he's just there, right? He's kind of an expert on all things transportation. Ha ha.
What about Whitlis?
Whitlis has taken her name out of the running, or at least, you know, either Whitmer or Harris took her out, and they let her basically say, you know, you're out of it.
2 women.
That's what they're thinking. You know, they're all about identity politics, right? They're the ones that make it about identity. So and then Roy Cooper was on the list too, but he's off. He was afraid of. He didn't want to travel.
The fact that she checks lots of identity boxes is what makes her career, right? So you don't need a black, you don't need a woman. Hey, they don't have a trans here, I don't think. How are they going to get the trans vote without a trans? Don't they need a trans here? What about what about that woman who was playing Jesus during the Last Supper? Barbara something. Maybe she could be on the ticket, so we have a trans person in case people are feeling like they want to change their gender during the election. Well, okay, stop being stupid, Rudy. That's what my mother would tell me, and also Dr. Maria. So now she's not here, so Ted and I are taking advantage. We're even going to go a little longer. So, because I haven't had fun like this in a while. Do you think you can talk like this with the French?
It's been like a week since we.
Yeah, I don't understand.
Do they know who Kamala Harris is?
Kamala Harris. Yeah.
They have no clue, right? They know that she's she's running.
She is. They know she's a woman who was selected for being vice president because she's black. That's what everybody knows that. Look, this is like she wasn't the border czar, except she was. And the reason we know she was selected because she was a black woman.
The female part plays into it too.
Is because a black woman. I said that.
Yeah, no, you did. That's what I'm pointing it out.
Because Biden told us he would only select a woman who is black. So I don't get this. Where races
for pointing it out.
Playing it out. That's why he selected her. And by any other token, he just would not have selected somebody who never went to Europe.
And by the way, why are they insulted when people point out that she may be a part of, DEI played a role in her selection? I thought DEI was this great thing. It's this great thing, but we're not allowed to point it out. Like, they're the ones that keep promoting and pushing diversity, equity, and inclusion.
The reality is,
then we label somebody and they get mad.
DEI did not play a role in her selection. It was the only reason for her selection. There was no other earthly reason to select.
She was getting 0 votes.
There was no
second place
reason to select Willie Brown's mistress. Have to take on that baggage, right? Have to take on the baggage of her terrible record as a prosecutor, in which she helped to destroy San Francisco. Her trying to make up for it by her cruel and horrible treatment of minor criminals. And then the fact that all you have to do is spend a few minutes with her and you realize she's a bit of a jerk with the, I mean, man, oh man, that's gotta, I bet when Biden was normal and I knew him, he wouldn't have been able to stand it. She's the kind of person that you don't want in a room, right?
Yeah. I don't think Biden necessarily thought too much of her, right? I don't think he thought, I don't know how much he thought of anything really at this point, but.
Now, they say she has lost over 90% of her staff. I don't know if that's not an exaggeration. That seems like a big number.
From when to when, right? It's like, what do they say? That does sound like a big, don't you hear that about?
But I haven't seen that on other people. 90%, not 90%.
No, I agree. But isn't that interesting with these Democrats that you hear that they're the nastiest people to work for? Well,
the Democrats usually protect you against that. They must not like her.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, but you're right. She's high turnover.
That's the kind of thing you leak on a Republican.
Yeah, and it does make you a nasty person. But I also don't necessarily hold that again. Look, it makes her a nasty person. But look, sometimes. I will say, I can think of a situation where, look, if you're the president, the leader of an organization, right? Like you, for example, Mayor, you're great to work with. You're great to work for.
I can get pretty angry sometimes.
You can, but you understand leadership, and say, I think you can point to the staffing issues in a sense that it speaks to them.
I haven't at times lost my temper. True. Most of the time, no. Most of the time, it's calculated.
Yeah.
I can turn around and actually smile at the. Sometimes, in order to show young people that I'm training how to use it, I will say, how could you possibly have focused on this and missed that? Look, it's right there. This is what I mean by, attention deficit disorder, and you're getting screwed up with this thing. You got to read, and you got to read carefully. You get it? And they'll say, yes, sir. And then I'll turn around.
But that's good leadership skills, and that's why you're the most successful Republican leader in this country outside, I guess, Well,
on the
think of a larger name than you in Republican politics outside of the presidents, maybe, right?
I'm the second most indicted.
Oh, there you go. So what does that say, right? They're not going after the inconsequential people.
Most indicted. On significant indictments, right? Although Steve has been indicted twice. He's got a stupid case coming up. I guess you can tell that I mentioned Steve a lot because I miss him, and I miss him personally. He's been a good friend and a solid ally now for years. But I miss him. I miss his voice for our cause. It's more serious than, look, I'm missing a lot of personal friends right now, some of whom have double-crossed me and some of whom are just too busy to do the things we love to do. But in the case of Steve, of course, I miss kidding around with him and going on a show and saying crazy things and getting him. One time I got him thrown off YouTube for something I said. Totally true. Does that matter with YouTube? True. Depends on whether you're spouting the Biden propaganda or not. But I would tease him and tell him I'm going to get you off for 2 weeks, or he would say I'm going to come on your show and get you off. Also, you have to realize that a conversation with Steve about this election is priceless, because I mean, everybody in politics and the kind of people around Trump's staff gets a big attack all the time, but he's got some really very smart people around him, and they all have different things that they can contribute. I'm going to tell you this straight out. Nobody can contradict me on this. Nobody understands the Trump electorate better than Steve Bannon, nor does anyone understand the transformation that's going on in America as a result of that electorate becoming part of the body politic. Steve Bannon understands it, and he has a feel for it, which means when you get down to that really end of the campaign, those very tough judgments have to be made about where do you go and how much time, and do you use, you got 8 commercials and you only have either money for or even room. You can't run 8 commercials and expect that they're going to be effective. And so even if you had all the money to run them, you got to get it down to 3 or 4 over a 4 or 5 day period at the end. Those choices are extraordinarily important. And nowadays, those choices are important starting really in late September, because you're in election period starting in late September.
I mean, unfortunately, the Democrats have a few weeks here, with their vice presidential pick and then their convention. So I agree with you, Mayor. I mean, I guess what is it, Labor Day, or that once we hit September, you got about 2 months, right, to hammer home our messaging, or President Trump day in and day out. So I agree with you. Stuff that's happening now, yes, it can be consequential, but it really starts once we hit September.
Well, the convention's over. What about the 21st or 22nd of September, right? The Democratic
August, yeah.
The August, yeah. And so you really just have the last week in August.
We'll get a little bounce right out of the convention, unless they screw it up. And that's what concerns me a little bit, Mayor. The way things are, and maybe you can reassure us, or I think every Friday from now to the election, we should close the week with a message from you. And I think this week, people, I hear from my friends, some people on our side, not everybody, they're a little down, right? The media, and I know you haven't been in the States, but the media is just, all over Kamala. She's the greatest thing since sliced bread. What is your message going into the weekend?
I've read everything. I've read everything I normally read, but I read it from France. I did also have the benefit of reading French and English papers that are like reading the more left-wing American. It's like reading the Times and the.
I wish you brought some over.
And the Washington.
You didn't bring any back with you, did you? Any of the newspapers?
I did.
I want to see them.
A couple of the crazy things they wrote.
I want to see them.
So for example, in London, there's a terrible murder going on of a 6 or 7, 8 or 8-year-old boy by a 17-year-old boy in front of a mosque, and it's in a illegal alien Islamic community. It is clearly an Islamic guy on a kid. They got riots going on. They refuse to identify. They say the kid's 17, so they're not going to give you his name. We don't have to how about you tell us his race and background? I mean, you do that. So they say, well, we don't usually, you sure as hell do. White cop, black woman. How many times have you read that? If some white cop came into that Islamic community and shot the guy, even if the guy was like, in the middle of dissecting his body with a shear, they would have said black cop causes problem in Islamic community. But they don't want to create the impression that Trump is right, that this group of illegals are disproportionately, beyond being illegal in the sense of violating the entry laws, are violent criminals. Now, it only takes logic to figure out that these people would be more criminals because they were allowed to come in under much less scrutiny. So the minute you reduce the scrutiny, the mobs, the gangs take advantage, and they finally get their people in. And so do the people who want to spy. You don't think we're overloaded now with Chinese spies? Yeah. I mean, China was sending so many people in. They complained about the delay, and Biden reduced the number of questions for them before. Right? He didn't want to disadvantage the illegals. And no one, of course, will raise the obvious question: how much of this is influenced by all the money that Biden got from China? Well, we're back. As you can see, we're back, and I don't know. I don't think the jet lag is going to do nothing for these people. Maybe we'll do a couple of little extras over the weekend because I'm extraordinarily energetic, and I'll give you some. I get out of my system some of my teaching stuff like Waterloo, which I want to talk to you. I want to talk to you about Waterloo. Or how about this? We went to Stonehenge. That is going back a bare minimum 5,000 years. Wow. More like maybe 30,000 years. And you're worried about climate change?
The Stonehenge goes back that long?
Oh, yeah. It goes back prehistoric. 5,000 is the, originally they thought it was the Romans who built it. But then they carbon dated it, and they carbon dated it back. Look at the longest number for me. I know 5,000 would be unrealistically short period of time.
Would you say it was worth visiting?
Oh, do it. Absolutely. You'll see the pictures that I took that will really...
Yeah, well, let's get some of these pictures. I took you straight from the airport here and we set up the show, but I'd like to incorporate some of our
get some
pics
of them
and
out
vids.
tonight.
Yeah, and we'll play those next week. So any closing message going into the weekend, Mayor, before we sign off?
Yeah, please get organized. Get yourself into a Republican club. Get yourself into a group that's going to check on the cheating of the Democrats. Get yourself into a group that's going to register people and get them out to vote early. We need bodies. We need people. We got to do this one-on-one, carrying the votes in, watching the votes, getting involved in the process so that if we see something suspicious, we report it right away, and we do what my mother used to call nip it in the bud. Stop them before the cheating gets too big.
Mayor, should people who are in states like New York and California, I don't want to write them off, but
they should go somewhere else.
Should we have them focus on the key states?
Yeah,
that they can be Pennsylvania, Michigan.
If you're in New York, it's easier to go work in New Jersey, where we have a chance, or in
Pennsylvania,
where we have a much better chance. The state that you and I should take a look at. I know there's a thought we might go there this weekend, although we might also go to Maine.
Connecticut?
Why is Connecticut? If New Jersey, if we're within 2-3 in New Jersey, why are we having such trouble with Connecticut? Is it because of all those snooty rich guys?
I think so, and you would know better than I would about the makeup of Connecticut, but it's
snooty.
It's snooty. I get this, like, you know, the typical upper East Coast liberal, northeastern liberal, right?
It's
like
terrible, and that's a terrible.
Yeah, that's not a compliment.
I got a suntan. So it really is not true. Connecticut's a very nice state and really nice people. They're mostly New Yorkers.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, we're not. We're not.
No, I'm sorry. They're mostly New Yorkers or the New England. You know, they come down.
That's what I'm saying.
Half the state is Giants. Half the state is Patriots. Half the state is Yankees. Half the state is Red Sox. Nobody roots for the Mets.
You love that line.
Oh, I like the Mets. I really do.
No, but you love saying that. That's a good line. That's a good connection.
Mets. I root for the Mets.
I was about to ask you, what about the Mets?
For the Mets in the minor league, the National League. Don't we beat them mostly in the World Series?
Say what you will, but those Mets fans respected you for not faking it, right?
Yeah, they did. They respected by booing me, calling me all kinds of.
You were mayor during the Subway Series.
Get the hell out of here, you bum. Go back to
right.
the Bronx.
There was the Subway Series.
I'll tell you what they did do. They voted for me. But boy, they call me names. Ooh. Except after September 11, when they were nice to me, and the press said, "How does it feel to get a big standing ovation at Shea Stadium?" I said, "It feels very unnatural, and I will know that the city is back to normal when they start booing me again, as they should."
That's why you are who you are, Mayor Giuliani.
All right. Well, you have a nice evening as we get ready for the weekend, and one of the last weekends where you can do some relaxation without working your tail off to save our republic. Okay. I want you to give a lot of thought, if you haven't figured out yet what your contribution is going to be. If you would like, you can text into Ted. And
we should.
Your recommendations, okay?
Let's participate in this process this fall.
To help you, we want to help you help America, okay?
We got 30,000 people watching live right now. So let's put them to work. All righty.
God bless Steve Bannon, huh? What a patriot. What a patriot. God bless him. We're going to have him back for the last 3-4 days to take us over the finish line. And then we're going to need him for straightening out this country. Believe me, very few people understand just how bad it is. Like Steve, the veteran of both military and political wars. Now you say a prayer for Steve and his family. Beautiful family. Say a prayer for the people of Israel, please. They're getting screwed so bad. Say a prayer for the people of the United States that we overcome this assault on our wisdom and our sensibilities and our common sense. And God bless America, the greatest country on earth.
Bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. There was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, written in 1776, one of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, for freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the ability to select the people who govern them. And he explained it in ways that were understandable to all the people, not just the elite. Because the desire for freedom is universal. The desire for freedom adheres in the human mind, and it is part of the human soul. This is exactly the time we should consult our history. Look at what we've done in the past and see if we can't use it to help us now. We understand that our founders created the greatest country in the history of the world. the greatest democracy, the freest country, a country that has taken more people out of poverty than any country ever. All of us are so fortunate to be Americans. But a great deal of the reason for America's constant ability to self-improve is because we're able to reason, we're able to talk, we're able to analyze. We are able to apply